Ready to go. Yeah. So we are live.
We are live.
Go live. It's saying go live. Stream at it.
That's like back to the 1980s, isn't it?
It is. Here we go. Live. Are we live? We are live.
We are live.
How you doing, guys? So we are on Instagram and YouTube. So welcome to the channel, guys. It's been a while since we've been here. It's been a while since I've been with Holly as well on the show. So welcome. We are back. We have a lineup, and we hope to just keep hitting the both platforms. I just tried to hit Facebook, but I think I messed up because I've changed the password on it, and it didn't go down too well. So I'm going to invite Holly on the Instagram. Let me do that. Here we go. Waving to you all.
There we go.
Yes.
Hey.
Look at that. Is it going to work? Will it work?
I don't know.
All right, let me turn this down. There you go. We're working this out, guys. We're working this out. No?
I think the mic's gonna.
How's it going now?
I don't know if people on Instagram will be able to hear us, though, will they? Because I've had to turn my volume right down.
I'm going to turn my volume down. Our volume is okay. It's all about the mic. So the mic will be fine. Okay, so we're working this out. You still can't hear. Joel, what do you mean you can't hear?
We've had to turn the noise off, haven't we? Oh, Mr. Freeze says he can.
Yeah, mine's all right. All right, I'll tell you what we'll do. Guys, catch us on YouTube, the YouTube channel. This is Marriage UK. You can get this talk on there. You can hear now. I don't know are we telling you to go away and not come back? I don't know. But when I put the mic, the camera in the right place, it's like, do you know what I mean?
Is it when I talk?
Just the mic volume. Of course it is. We're going to be fine. Sorry, guys. Let's work this out. Can you hear us? So what I've done is I've had to, you're not sure, I've had to move the mic away, the phone away from the camera, from the laptop rather. Hopefully we'll be okay. What's up?
I don't know if is the feedback through Instagram or is the feedback through the YouTube? I can't tell which one it is.
All I did was turn my volume down a little bit.
Okay.
I don't know if you can do that on yours.
I have turned it right down on my phone.
I think it might be my phone, to be honest.
Yeah.
Guys, you're going to have to get us on our YouTube channel. I'm going to take it off of the Instagram. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Yeah? We'll take it off the Instagram. Guys, get us on This Is Marriage on YouTube, okay? You'll get the whole thing. Take care. Hey, so we have seen... Yeah. We have seen that it's... We've seen that it's an interesting time for conversations around relationships. I've met so many people who are struggling, especially now.
Yeah.
And one of the things I've done is always make sure that we've gotten people on the show who are able to articulate their journey, guys, to articulate their journey through relationships, especially in this time. But this time I don't think is any more important than any other time. It's just we're screaming for it now because we recognize how challenging it is. We live in a confusing time because there's so much information out there. We're trying to make sense of the journey. So thank you for migrating over, guys. We have Holly happily ever _RT on Instagram to share some game-changing mindsets to really turn our relationships around. I appreciate your time so much.
Thank you. I appreciate being here.
Yeah, sure. And I'd love you to just share with us what you do.
Okay, so this is still a relatively new thing for me. So about 5 years ago or so, my husband and I had a massive relationship breakdown, for those of you that don't know. And that prompted me to sort of take massive action to try and get our marriage back. And one of the big upshots of that for me was that I was just completely not only thrilled with the results we got, but also I was absolutely fascinated by all the stuff I was learning. So all the psychology, all the neuroscience, all this stuff that was kind of brand new to me, that was all really exciting. And I think over the years, it became clear to me that this was where my passion really lies. This is what I wanted to do. So essentially, I have now decided to do this full time. I've set up a relationship training course, which is like an 8-week course, basically, for you to learn everything you need to know to turn your relationship around, basically to do exactly what Andy and I did. And yeah, that's literally where I am now. So like I say, it's still relatively new, but it's all really exciting. I'm incredibly excited about this journey, and also, you know, being able to give something back. I think I was very much for my whole life involved in a career where I really didn't feel like I was having any sort of particular impact on the world, and actually this is a way to make a real measurable change in other people's lives that does a lot of good. So that's kind of really high up on my list there.
That's powerful. I'm going to throw some questions at you.
You go for it.
I know you can take it.
I
think I'm going to start off with this comment, actually. I think it is surprisingly easy to just trudge through marriage 10, 20, maybe 30, 40, 50 years in a mode.
Yes.
Without like knowing what do I do that's new? How do I change the mode of our operation? How can I reclaim some of that passion that we started off with? How can I? Is there a possibility for me to love more? For me to see more sexiness in my partner? For me to transform our sex and love life? Is there an opportunity? Is there a possibility after 20 years? So I've been married. I'm coming up to, I think it's 20 years. It's 20 this year. And it's been that long that I'm having to count. I'm coming to 20 years this year. Still wearing a hoodie. Imagine that. And I'm asking you from Curtis to Holly.
Yeah.
Is it possible for me to take my relationship to another level? Is there something that I could be missing?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think so. I think part of my journey, if you like, learning everything I have about how to heal our relationship has resulted in me discovering that we could go to a place that was beyond where we started. And, you know, a lot of things I've learned focus on personal growth and development. And as human beings, we're happiest when we're growing. We're happiest when we're advancing and changing, you tend to find when the rot really sets in when people are sitting there like feeling frustrated with their lives because it's kind of stuck. So, you know, and you, Curtis, you are a dynamic being. So you're a different person now to when you got married. You know, Juanita's a different person now to when you got married.
It's true.
You're different people. Like, none of us stay the same. We all grow, we all change, no matter what's going on in life. And some of us, you know, if you tend to change more in response to stressful events. So if something big's happened in your life, you'll probably go through more of a growth spurt at that point. But the potential is always there to change. It's a matter of coming to that point where you want to change. And I think that's the thing. A lot of people, and we'll kind of get onto that a little bit further actually, because wanting it's not enough. This was something we were going to talk about. But in the first instance, recognizing that you feel something needs to change and wanting that change, that's, you know, that's sort of the seed where you're going to know, right, things have got to move on. And then at that point, you're able to start looking to make those changes.
Sorry, you know, I'm fiddling with the phone. I'm so sorry, so rude, but I'm trying to make sure everybody still gets some of what you've got. So I'm still listening to you.
So I think, you know, if I think change is available if you want it. You know, you can always do something differently. If you don't like the results you're getting, you do something different, don't you? You know, like, I know you're big into your health and fitness.
Ish.
Ups and downs. Lockdown's gonna make that a bit of a but you know, same principle applies, isn't it? You know, if you don't like the results you're getting, you make changes, don't you?
So what would you say to someone who said, I've tried everything?
I think, knowing from a personal point of view, that when you say I've tried everything, you haven't. You haven't. Maybe it sounds harsh. It sounds so harsh, but I'm saying this with love because I've been there myself. You know, when you go, I've tried everything, it's that kind of like, you know, I might have thought about a lot of things. I might have bought a book. I might have watched a couple of videos on YouTube, but doing that and actually 100% committing to the process of change, it's a different thing. Which is why I think mindsets are so important, because something I've sort of come across recently is, I think you can really want something, like we all want to be rich and we all want to be, you know, looking like film stars, but wanting it just isn't enough, is it? And that sounds very simple when it comes to, say, your health and fitness. You know that you can want to be thin all day long, but if you don't get off your ass and, you know, go for a run or eat properly, or, you know, it's just not going to happen. But same applies in relationships. And I think I feel the need to say this because I don't think we look at relationships in that same way. I don't think we think of them. It's kind of like I just really want my marriage to be better, and just wanting it is not gonna get the results.
No. So if we start off with you, what I want to do is squeeze this in an hour. And I say squeeze, not because we're going on. It's because there's a lot to say. And we're going to make sure that you have some tools, guys, by which to make change. Is that fair to say?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. So I want to, if that's all right, go to yourself.
Yes.
And I might relate to you depending on how much I'm prepared to expose, right? about my marriage. But was there a time for you where, and you can start the story wherever you want to, was there a time for you where it seemed like it was pointless and hopeless?
it's a very good question, actually, because in thinking about what I was going to talk about this evening, there's a school of thought that says if you don't believe something is possible, you'll never achieve it. So what the mind believes, the body achieves. And I think I definitely had points of hopelessness, don't get me wrong. I definitely had points where I was like, this can't happen fast enough. I can't take enough action. But I think in my mind, I had, looking back on it, I'd decided that this was it. I was going to do something about it. I was going to fight for it. I essentially cut off all other possibilities in my mind. So I was like, this is worth fighting for. I want this to work. I'm going to do something about it. So when I was sort of thinking about this, I was like, because I definitely come across people who, like I say, they really want a better relationship. They want things to be better. But fundamentally, when it comes down to it, when you dig a little bit deeper, there's a lot of things in their mind that say, he's never going to change. She's never going to change. It's been like this for 20 years. And
so it's like we're sabotaging that process of possibility before even
taking the action. You're talking yourself out of it. And we as humans, we're amazing. We can do this. We can make excuses all day long. We can find excuses anywhere you want. But I think there has to be a point where you cut off any possibility. So, for example, if you decide, right, I'm going to learn what I need to do in order to change my relationship, that is, of course, that's taking action, which is fantastic. But learning in itself is not enough. It has to be, you have to have the courage to kind of go into your own life and your own relationship and make some massive changes. And that is very much, I think, most of us have heard the phrase, feel the fear and do it anyway. Sometimes, it is. It's literally digging deep and going, I'm really scared of the reaction I'm going to get, or I don't know if he's going to shut me down. I don't know if he's going to walk off. I don't know if he's going to shout at me. I don't know what's going to happen, but I need to do this. And it's quite a scary thing. And I think fear gets the better of people a lot of the time, particularly in relationships. I hear a lot of this where, if I say to people, why haven't you tried this? Why haven't you done that? Sometimes I get, well, this and that, and, you get the excuses, but quite often you get, I'm just scared. I'm just too scared. And fear is a very big obstacle for us to overcome in relationships, particularly when your relationship's in crisis or it's in a bad place. So I think it's a hurdle, basically.
So the first thing we have to do is, and I'm going to try and edit it on the screen as we talk.
Ooh, look at
you. Technology.
It's so technical.
Step one, we're going to say, be courageous.
Feel fear and do it anyway.
Hope I've spelled it right. Be courageous. And like you said, it's stepping out. It's stepping out. Do you know something? I'm the kind of person, actually, I don't do rejection. So people like me will think ahead generally, because I've learned some new skills now, but left to my old devices, people like me would have just said, I know what she's going to say.
Yeah.
I know how she's going to react.
Yeah.
And I would like you to throw some advice to someone who thinks like me. If I know, or believe rather, that in advance I know what's going to happen and I know that I need to do something, change something, what do you suggest?
I think you've hit the nail on the head though there, because you're like, this is what I believe and this is what you're expecting. So it's not truth. I think that the problem we have is, so when you look at the word beliefs, I think we all tend to think that what we believe is true and it's a fact. But, facts are very limited. So they are, the sky is blue, the grass is green. Obviously, if you're colorblind, perhaps not. But you know what I'm getting at. It's kind of, facts are hard facts. And then there are things you believe. So, sex lives die in long-term relationships. My relationship exists to make me happy. If we have any problems in our relationship, they're not the one. All these, everybody, if you start digging very rapidly, you uncover the fact that, if your relationship isn't kind of going the way you want it to go, there's probably a thought process underneath that that is causing you to behave or even not do anything. Sometimes we, our beliefs like sex lives die in long-term relationships, that doesn't necessarily result in us taking action. It results in us doing nothing, because we go, oh, well, this is just the way it is. So that's fine. And I'll just leave it. But, doing nothing is in itself an action.
So you could answer the question really by saying, look, it doesn't matter it's irrelevant what the reaction will be, because doing nothing is really a part of the problem anyway.
Yes. But there's the whole, I know people say it's an Einstein quote, but I don't think it is. But the definition of madness is doing the same thing over again and expecting the same results. If you don't like where you are, that situation is born out of the actions that you've been taking up to date. So if you want to change that, you've got to take different actions. And assuming women, God, we are so guilty of this. Like,
come on, let it out.
Expecting guys to read our minds. So I'm absolutely obsessed with Married at First Sight Australia. And I was watching that. Oh, it's amazing. Let's not get started.
We're currently watching season 13, I think, episode 4, the American one.
Oh, I haven't even started the American one yet. So I'm just stuck on Australia. It's insane. But yeah, so one of the girls on there was like essentially expecting her husband to read her mind.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, no. Even when you see somebody who claims to be a mind reader, no one believes it. Expecting someone to read your mind is just a foolhardy pursuit. It's like, well, he should just know what to do. No, and I know women, we're so guilty of this. I've 100% been guilty of this. It's just like, oh, well, I'd really like him to buy me some flowers, but I don't want him to tell, I don't want to tell him that, because then it won't mean as much. And I get this, I completely understand the mindset, but the truth is that so many of the problems in relationships result because we never actually come out and are completely honest about what we want. And another thing that I know I used to do all the time is something that's sort of termed as emotional dishonesty. It sounds a bit shady, but it's kind of essentially saying the opposite of what you want. So,
give an example, please.
So in an argument, fine, go then, see if I care. And it is literally the absolute opposite. But the problem is that when you're dealing with, I don't think it is a male-female thing, this. I think it's more of a, it's another thing that's at play. But if you're dealing with somebody who takes things on face value, they'll be like, oh, she wants me to go. Okay, I'll go then. And then the person goes and they're like, why have you gone? Well, you told me to go.
Do you know what it sounds like? It sounds, honestly, it sounds too easy. When I'm listening to you, right? You know what you're talking about. And when you break it down in such a clinical way, in such a logical way, it just sounds like we make relationships so complicated by the way we feel.
Yeah.
And the way we feel is made up of some of these crazy thoughts of interpreting other people's behavior through fear and pain. And relationships probably would be so much more successful if we just asked.
Yeah.
And if we just stop to listen.
Yeah.
And don't go there. See, there's a place we go to. It's that place. Like, it's like, you know, I used this analogy the other day, you know, Lord of the Rings, where Gollum puts the ring on. And now all these voices come in.
Yeah.
You know, that's what we do. We just self-sabotage. Someone said here, Harriet said that those passive aggressive ones, you know, you're talking about, okay, so you're going, okay, see you later. And you're like, guys know this. We're like, oh, I'm dead.
Yeah.
I'm dead.
But the thing is, when you stop doing that, when you stop behaving in that way, it makes things so much clearer. And the thing is, like, you know, I say all this stuff with amusement because I've 100% been there myself. We don't do this consciously. We don't do it deliberately. Most of us don't do it with an intent to harm or hurt. You know, this is not what is behind it. A lot of this, we're just acting out of patterns that we've learned in our lives. Most of what we do in life is just strategies that we've learned where at some point in our life we did something and it got what we perceive to be a good result, and then we just carry on doing it. We don't do it consciously. It's not malicious. And then, like, obviously two people come together in a relationship and it just, you know, we just don't get each other, which is why I spend a lot of time talking about mindsets and talking about understanding how each other work and really going into who you are as a person and your personality type and all these different things. Because when you understand these things, suddenly you're like, oh, yeah, I get it. You that's not what you meant at all, you know, or I understand why you're acting this way, or, you know, and all these things. And instead of all this crazy stuff that you imagine in your head, which we all do, and, you know, I think sometimes we see the other person as the enemy. We see the other person as sort of deliberately behaving in a certain way to upset us, or, you know, she's doing that to annoy me, you know, it's just simply not true. We're just two unique human beings who are, you know, who've come together. You know, we're trying to love each other, and sometimes you just need a bit of help to do that a bit more successfully, I think.
Okay, so we have a couple of questions here. Lovely.
Yes.
And I think, Harry, I'm going to come to your question. I'm going to come to your question in a moment, Harriet. And the question was about you and your partner and being proactive. We'll come to that in a moment. I don't know if you can see the questions at all.
I
cannot. No, don't worry. Yeah, I've got them here. Okay. A question is, where is it? How can you be a better team player? So just before we go on, I know that what it is, sometimes, guys, I might have a conversation with the guests and sometimes we prepare stuff to say, but I also like to kind of prioritize the questions as well. So go ahead and answer that question if you would, Holly. How can you be a better team player? From Odeon, sorry. Yeah.
this actually, it's quite a big topic, really. So I'll try and sort of encapsulate this for you. So I think there's quite a big mindset that a lot of us have, and I know I personally used to have this, which is my relationship exists to make me happy. And it's kind of, so you get into a relationship, you're in love, everything's great, you're like, oh, it's lovely, and this person makes me happy, and and it's not a conscious mindset, it just kind of runs in the background. Of, you think this relationship exists to make me happy, and then one day it doesn't make you happy, and then you're like, well, what do I do? And a lot of people just at that point, they obviously just quit, don't they? They just like, oh, screw it, it's not making me happy anymore, I'm out. And obviously that doesn't quite work. So changing, the fact that you're asking the question of how to be a better team player makes me think that you've already kind of got the right mindset anyway, because being a team player is the key thing. One of the things about being a team player is having the other person's back. And I think the difficulty is with being a team player is if you're in a relationship, and I guess, Curtis, you probably hear a lot of this as well on social media, like a lot of people seem to be in relationships which are very one-sided. So one person's making the effort, the other person not so much.
Yeah.
And obviously the ideal scenario is that both of you are putting it into the relationship. So the way I describe this is, we often talk, if you're in a relationship, you talk about being like two peas in a pod, or, my other half, like you consider yourself merged, you become a half instead of being a whole person.
Yeah.
And then there's another school of thought where there's a lot of people out there at the moment who are kind of very much, I choose me, I want my independence, I don't want to be tied down to anyone. They kind of resist getting into relationships because they almost feel like that would in some way diminish them.
Yeah. They're not looking forward to that sacrifice, right?
Yeah. And for me, I think a more empowering way to look at it, and a way that gets better results, is to look at it that your relationship is a separate entity to you and your partner. So essentially there's three elements to your relationship. There's, two me's and one we in the middle. And what you find is your relationship's a system. So if you're both putting into this relationship, the relationship also gives back to you. But obviously, if only one person is putting in, that can only work for so long. The system will not work. Essentially, what you're looking for is this nice infinity loop where both of you are inputting and both of you are outputting. But essentially, the idea is to consider your relationship to be this third entity. So I kind of describe it sometimes like a pet. So, if you've got a dog, you've got to feed the dog, you've got to walk the dog, you've got to cuddle the dog, you've got to love the dog. If you don't look after the dog, what happens? Nothing good comes out of that. So if you sort of, instead of looking at your relationship from a point of view of what am I getting out of it, or what are they getting out of it, if you can try and look at it to say, there's me, there's my partner, and in the middle there's this other third thing that I need to continually invest into in order to get the results I want. And the results I want is a good relationship. So in order to get the good relationship, you have to keep putting things into it and investing the time and the effort, and kind of continually thinking, the more I put in, the more the more good comes out, the more good comes to me, essentially. So it's giving in order to keep your relationship going, and giving in order to make your relationship a better place to be. But I guess the issue with that is obviously, you know this, Curtis, in a relationship, sometimes one of you can't give. Something will happen, which means, all your focus, all your attention, it might be a bereavement, it might be you're starting a new business. It doesn't really matter what the event is. Something happens that means that you can't give. And at that point, your partner will take up the slack. But if it's 20 years of one of you putting in and one of you not putting in.
Hey, you're hitting the nail on the head in a massive way. And this is a big part of, whenever I talk about relationships, this aspect is so important, because sometimes for a few years, someone's going to give more than the other.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and that is marriage sometimes, so it's true what you're saying, and what you're saying about having someone else's back, having your partner's back, meaning in my opinion, I'm waiting for them to fall so that I can pick it up. That's my mindset. And that is I guess I don't want to put words in your script, but that is a game-changing mindset to say, if I'm here for when you fall, and you may fall not for a week or 30 days, but you may fall for years, can I hold you up? Not everybody's prepared for that. But sometimes that's what it is that makes it work. Unless you finished, I've got some crazy comments going on now.
Cool. I was going to say,
sure.
There's having someone's back can be the small things as well, though.
Okay. So
it can be something like, you come home from work, like I could come home from work and be like, oh, so-and-so said something, and it totally sabotaged me. And if my husband took the side of the other person and not my side, but this happens. Like, I could see your face like, what? But this is something that because I think, sometimes when you know a person really well, you might make judgments about, you might be like, oh, well, babe, did you do this? Did you incite them? Did you rile them up? But having someone's back comes in lots of different formats. And, again, if people are watching maths, the amount of craziness that goes on there are all these girls who are starting fights and expecting their blokes to stand behind them and have their back. And I'm like, this challenges my views about about whether you can have someone's back, because these girls are like going completely rogue and expecting guys to back them up. And I'm like, you're pushing this definition like to the furthest degree. But in a general sense, in a relationship, having the other person's back so that they know that if they need you at any point, you are available to them. And that sounds like a very tall order. But knowing
that's what it is,
that, whether it's a phone call, whether it's whatever, that person is prepared to drop what they're doing and be there for you. And having that knowledge.
So you know what? We've got a question that actually stems on is maybe part 2 of the question from Harriet, which is, and it's a personal question: was your partner as proactive in repairing the relationship as you were, or was it one-sided? Because it can be like that sometimes.
It's 100%. I mean, like in most cases, one person is far, far more invested in the process. And because of the nature of our marriage problems, I mean, basically, Andy turned around to me and said one night, I don't love you anymore. It was just kind of a sort of a bit of a bombshell event for me. And no, for a long time, he was not invested in that. Or at least I felt like I was doing a lot more than he was. And it's quite, it is a difficult mindset to get your head around, because sometimes I know people who, it's kind of like, well, if he's not going to work on it, then neither am I. But the problem with that mindset is if neither of you are doing anything, nothing will happen. Nothing will change. If I drop the ball when I have my relationship problems, I wouldn't be sat here married today. We'd probably be divorced, because he was not in a place emotionally to do what was needed. And I think sometimes we focus a lot on what the other person is or is not doing, but fundamentally the only person you have control over in your life is you. So you basically just have to stay in your lane, decide what you want and what you are going to do about it. Because there's so many reasons why people behave the way they do. And this is something that I teach a lot about, because once people understand that, they don't feel, they're like, oh, I can see why he wasn't ready to do that, or he didn't take the action, or he's not necessarily in the place to do it. Once you understand more about your partner, you understand why they might not be chomping at the bit to make things better, but it doesn't mean they don't want to. And this was something I had to get my head around. I think there was one day, like, I don't know how long all our problems have been going on at the time, but I was cycling to work, and I think I went over a bump in the pavement, and I had my phone on my handlebars because I was listening to music. And as I went over this bump, like, the phone jumped up, and I kind of, without thinking, I kind of leaned forward to grab the phone to stop it from falling. And as I did, I hit another bump, and I just went like over the handlebars. And like, it was all really messy. I like landed like square on my head. And as it so happened, I basically did this pretty much outside where my doctor's surgery was.
Well done.
And I know, it's good. And so I was lying on the pavement, and there was a woman walking her dog, and she ran over to help me. And it turned out she was a nurse at the surgery. And I think, stressful situation and everything. I was like crying, and obviously shock hits you and stuff. And, she was like, can I call anyone? And I was like, oh, can you call my husband? Because I was trying to pick up my phone, and she was like, don't move your head. Because I think she, obviously with me landing on my forehead, she thought that, I could have quite a nasty injury. So I was like, you can call my husband, but he doesn't love me anymore. And, and I was like wailing and, like massively emotional. And, she just turned around to me and she was like, if he didn't love you, he wouldn't be here. And that really stuck with me, because I think sometimes, because of personality differences, you behave in a different way. So for me, I'm a bit more over the top, a bit more dramatic, a bit more sort of expressive, I guess, in the way that I show love and the way that I want to be loved. But he's more reserved. And just because he wasn't behaving in the way I wanted him to behave didn't mean that he didn't love me and he didn't want to make it right. And, this is something that we talked about at length afterwards. I think, I know for so many couples, this is a massive, massive barrier, because you feel like, I can't do it unless the other one's doing it. They've got to show me they love me. They've got to give me this grand gesture. They've got to do this. They've got to do that. And actually, I feel like that is the one mindset that's going to mess things up, because if you don't do it because they're not doing anything, then nothing will happen. Nothing will change, and you will sabotage all your chances of actually making your relationship better and, coming to it and doing something new. And, speaking from personal experience, if I had done nothing, I imagine we'd be divorced now, like nothing would have changed. So I feel like, as hard as it is when it feels like the other person isn't trying, you know, if you're married, if you're in a long-term partnership, you know, it's not like you're dating and some guy's not trying. You know, we hear a lot of this on Instagram, you know, where you've got these one-sided relationships. And I think, you know, if it's like that and you know each other, then, you know, that person is there, they're with you. And that says a lot, because I don't believe people do something they don't want to do. People tend to do exactly what suits them. So
this is, I mean, I can almost hear you trying to stay within the bounds of the conversation, because it's
massive.
It's massive. It is. And we have to kind of be careful what we absorb over time from media, books and videos and movies. What we're talking about here today is what it is.
Yeah.
And I love where you're coming from. Sometimes, you know, actually, going back to Harriet's question, I just want to make a point I forgot to make earlier on, was that this doesn't speak ill of your husband's character at all.
No.
Something interesting you said was, and you know what, this is how I trust you. You said something earlier on, which was in the limits of his ability at the time. So you will always get someone who's given a little bit more than the other.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's going to work, but it's how you stay there. You know what I mean? And then you said, obviously, earlier on in summary, be courageous, step out, say what your heart's saying, think about it before you speak, but say it, have a communication about it. And then now you're saying at the same time, the other person might not be ready to move with you, or might not instigate or have even the same mindset. Go ahead, sorry.
But that doesn't stop you from taking the action. You know, the being courageous is still you taking action. You know, you understanding that the other person is not in the right place. And that is, honestly, that's true for probably most couples who are in crisis. That is going to be the situation. That's the truth of it. You know, there's going to be one person who feels like they're giving more, who feels like they're doing more.
That is it. Lovely.
And the reason I can say wholeheartedly that Andy wasn't in the place to do it is obviously with the benefit of hindsight. But equally, something that we both had to learn, which is probably one of the toughest pills to swallow in a relationship, and in life actually, is taking 100% responsibility for where your relationship's at.
What does that mean? So you mean me as an individual? You're talking about in the singular?
Yeah.
Go on, explain that to me more, please.
So say you're, I don't know, Elon Musk or something. You've got this insane life. You're a billionaire. You know, life is good. If somebody said to you, you're 100% responsible for your life, you'd be like, yes, I am. But if your life's not going the way that you want it to go, and if your relationship's not going the way you want it to go, if somebody says to you, you're 100% responsible for the state of your life, your relationship, you're like, whoa. It's a very, very horrible, hard thing to get your mind around. So this is something that I had to do.
Oh, no, hold on. We may not get through your script, but we got to do this, right? All right. I'm in 100% agreement, but I want to be really clear about what we're talking about.
Yep.
Before I come to quantum vortex energy and their comments, right? I don't know if you can see. It's a commentary. You can't see the comments. Don't worry. All right, sorry. I wish you could see my screen. You was in my marriage, in my relationship,
Yep.
or I am single and I need to prepare the right mindset,
Yep.
game-changing mindset,
Yep.
or I'm dating and I'm with someone and I'm just imagining what life will be with this person, right?
Yep.
It's going to be perfect. That's what we all think at that stage. And then you're saying, listen, a good way to approach this forever is to have the mindset that you are responsible for. Would you like to finish my sentence, Holly?
You are responsible for your reality. So,
but there's two of us.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
You have to take.
But there's two of us. There's two of us. There's two of us.
Okay. You forget that the other person exists for the purpose of this mindset. So I like to treat this like a little exercise. And because we're all used to them, you treat it like a filter. So, treat it like a filter that you use on Instagram. Essentially, if you look at any situation and you look at it from the point of view of this is all my responsibility, this is all my making, everything that is happening to me now is a result of something that I have done. In what way am I responsible for this? In what way have I created this situation? And like I say, if everything's going really well, that's quite easy to do, isn't it? I think if everything's going really well in your life, it's easy for you to apply that filter and go, yeah, well, I've worked hard, I've done this, I've been disciplined, I've been consistent, all these things. And it's easy for you to take that kind of praise almost and go, yeah, well done me. I've done everything that was needed and I'm responsible for this and I'm really happy with that. Now, the thing behind this is that obviously growing up, we are all taught about right and wrong. And we are taught that obviously if something is good, if something is, if you've done something well, you get praise. You've done something badly, there is a deep consequence involved in this.
It's getting deep now. Come on. Come on.
So, none of us want to say, my life's not going quite how I want it to go. And yeah, that's all down to me. Like it's such a hard thing to get your brain around. But when I applied that filter, if you like, to my relationship, that was the point at which I could really start to own everything that I had done, because it's so easy to make it all about the other person, to say, it's your fault, you've done this, you've done this, you've done this. Like, we all do this in relationships. Like, we all play the blame game, we all pass it off to somebody else. But the key thing with that is, if you're blaming the state of your relationship on the other person, or if you're blaming how you feel, for example, on the other person, if you go, you made me angry, that means essentially that you don't have control over whether you're angry or happy or sad. You're essentially giving your power away to the other person. Like, I'm angry because you did this. You've upset me, you've made me sad. Whereas if you start to look at it from the view of, I take 100% ownership for everything in my life, in my relationship. I am responsible for my current reality, whatever that is. You're able to look at it and think, right, okay, if that were true, what have I done or not done that has contributed to this situation? And I know this is such a confronting thing. This is like the first time I heard it, it's like you almost feel it like physically. You're like, oh, like, how can this be my fault? How dare you? It's just a really, really, really bitter pill to swallow, but it's actually one of the most effective ways to kind of identify what's right in your life.
Oh wow! I mean, quite on time. Who's it? Gifted Monroe. Listen, welcome. I've put your comment up. Can you read a comment there?
I can see it. Yeah, marriage is hard.
As a newlywed, you're giving. I'd like you to just, for the next few minutes, just speak to someone who's a newlywed in a mindset that they might need, and you're speaking on it now, and you might want to go more into what you've got, what you were just speaking about now, or you might want to go somewhere else. I don't know, but I would like you to speak to a newlywed, because I remember I look back and I'm just wondering how Juanita and I made it this far, in the sense that we were not shown what to do.
Yeah.
So some of the reason why we are here is down to a miracle. Exercising a little patience here, falling off the bandwagon there, just tripping up along the way and reaching out to God and changing mindsets, which is what today's topic is about. So I'm speaking to, and I would not want to get married again. And I say that. And I say that because it means, like, if I was to get married in this age, I just think it's so hard. And so I think that, Monroe, you are, from my perspective, in a harder place because it's just a funny time we're in. But I would say to you that I'm asking Holly to speak to you now in how mindset is important.
I think what I'd be interested to know is, when you say marriage is hard, is this an expectation? So what were you expecting? Because, you know, fundamentally, I think when we get married, we're the same two people. You know, we're the same people as we were. You know, and I think some people do really, really struggle when they get married, because they feel like it kind of changes the ballpark a bit. So sometimes people get a bit lazy when they get married. There's a lot of being taken for granted. There's a lot of mixed messaging. There's a lot of things that start to happen with people being taken for granted, essentially. And I think that's where it can get to the stage where you feel like marriage is hard. But yeah, I think I'd be interested to know if she can put a comment, or he can put a comment, Monroe, to say, is this a matter of expectation? Is this a matter of, were you expecting something different? Because I think this is something you've talked about, Curtis, haven't you? About your expectations going into marriage. I think you've said, I think you referred to it as a fantasy like mindset about, you know, what you were expecting going into marriage.
Yep. Again, we pick up the fairy tale, we pick up the nonsense, we pick up the examples, and I guess I could offer you some encouragement. I don't even want to call it advice. I'll call it encouragement to say it's supposed to be hard, because for us to work, for Winnie and I to work, there is going to have to be some sparks and fireworks, and there's going to have to be some loving. It's just the positive and negative go together, and you work out that medium over time. And so don't worry about it too much. At the same time, I don't know you in any kind of context, so I don't want to. Oh, actually, look, here we go. It's different when you start living together. Yes, you're getting to know the person all over again, learning to compromise. Okay, so we're getting more context. So my encouragement to you is that is what it is. And if you just keep your arrows pointed in the right direction, You work it out, and I know I don't want to speak too much, but I'm glad you're saying that, because it's actually not as bad as possibly it could be. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes. 100%. And yeah, I think that is true, and particularly when, oh God, when you start living together, even if you love the other person,
Yeah.
wow, is that a challenge? Like, you know, the stupid little things that you kind of just expect to happen don't necessarily happen. And this is, you know, this is something I look at quite heavily when I'm dealing with couples, is sort of even couples who've been together for a long time, looking at understanding what your personal boundaries are, looking at what your needs are, understanding how to have those conversations between the two of you, so you're not operating on this level of, well, I expect him to do this and I expect him to do that, or I expect her to do this and I expect her to do that. You know, you can have a conversation where you iron all this stuff out. You know, it's going to be a big conversation. You know, you're going to need to hash a lot of stuff out about what you think is going to happen, what you are expecting to happen. And then, you know, you can iron out a lot of the places where conflict can really blow up. But then, you know, it's proven that, I can't remember what the figure is, but there's a certain percentage of arguments in a relationship that never ever get resolved.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, and you will have those same arguments forever. Wow. But it's just a matter of how you deal with them. So for me and Andy, like, it's never the big stuff. It's always the stupid stuff. I was talking to a friend of mine the other night about this. She was like, I can't believe you two argue about this. We argue about loading the dishwasher. That's our big thing. Like, we can have like World War III over that. It's such a stupid thing. But we wouldn't argue about, you know, big life-changing stuff. We sit down and have a really balanced conversation about that. You know,
that's really good. That is interesting to hear. And that's actually encouraging and gifted. Gifted. I just want to say that we honest, no matter what we see with our eyes, we're looking at everybody else and seeing, oh, they're struggling, or we might be looking at the social media version of people.
Yeah.
But the version that of what we think marriage should be when we get there, I just want you to know that it's perfectly normal to have all your expectations dashed in the bin. You're okay. And unless you're saying, I don't love him and he doesn't love me,
yeah,
it's okay. It's all good.
Yeah.
You sound like you're doing perfectly normally fine.
Yeah. And that is a massive point there, isn't it? Like, Curtis, the fact that I hear this a lot from people where they're like, oh, I'm so glad to have found somebody else who's going through this. We all go through this. I'm not sure that there's a couple on earth. Like, there's some couples that I think are amazing and inspirational, but by their own admission, like Will Smith and Jada, for example, they talk extensively about all the stuff that they've been through, all the work they've had to do to get their relationship to where it is. Yes, they've got a fantastic relationship now, but it has come with graft, it's come with effort, it's come with commitment, it's come with, you know, not quitting at the first sign of trouble. And you know, that's a massive, like, it's one of the things that gets me so much, like, on social these days. So many people, it's like, oh, you know, it's basically the I choose me mindset. Like, if something doesn't please me, I'm out. And I'm like, I don't believe you can go into a marriage. If you love someone, you know, you can't just call time on it when it doesn't suit you anymore.
No. And the fact that you have conflict, or you're struggling to get used to the way that they could be properly messy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They could even be unhygienic, lazy. It does not mean that you will not work. It doesn't mean that you will not work it out. You have to have a level of patience that doesn't necessarily have a sell-by date. And like you said, Holly, and I'd like you to, you know, in our closing seconds, whilst we're on that vein, just summarize a couple of the points. I think you've made mostly two main points. Just summarize a couple of the points And I guess in a way that leaves, because I think as we saw with Gifted, she says, "Yay, thank you." So she's been brought down to earth now. She's not in a corner crying her eyes out saying it's not working. But
It's
and
not.
I say that tongue in cheek. But just to summarize for us, the mindset that we need to survive. Yeah.
To survive. I mean, well, my two big things that I think have made the biggest difference, I know for me personally, and also for couples I work with, are the idea of what you give to the relationship is far more important than what you're getting out of it. If you're giving, then almost naturally you're getting back. And actually, there's an incredible amount of joy and love in giving. So that is incredibly fulfilling in itself. But essentially, giving to each other, giving to the relationship, is one of the most powerful things you can do. And the other massively, massively powerful thing, and I know this is a real, like, you have to twist your brain a bit to get your head around it, but is essentially owning everything. Own your thoughts, your words, your deeds, your actions. Understand that you alone, and as long as the two of you are in the relationship with the same mindset, this is the thing, then it works beautifully. If I have this mindset and my husband has this mindset that we are both 100% responsible for the success of our relationship, then we have automatically put ourselves in a position where we want to make an effort, where we're like, I know it's up to me to make it work. And, I'm thinking this and Andy's thinking the same thing. So he's like, I know it's up to me to make it work. And if we're both thinking that same thing, if you're both going in with that same goal of I'm putting into it, I'm responsible for it, then the results actually come naturally. I would almost say, I would dare to say, I think if you're both putting it in, and if you both feel that it is your responsibility and not the other person's responsibility, then you will get better results fundamentally.
Now, that is, what I heard from you tonight is more than I expected, to be honest. And you never fail to kind of, I don't want to understate you, but you never fail to bring it. Should I put it that way? So I thank you so much. And look, before we go anywhere, guys, Holly, you run a course. Let's go back to this course.
Yes.
I don't want to hear how new it is. I want to hear, because you've actually run the course before, so it's not like it doesn't work, but you've developed a course. Guys, you've heard what she's about. She knows what she's talking about. Can I hand it over to you to just tell us what you do again and where to find you? Go ahead. Sorry.
So, yes, I've created an 8-week, what I call relationship training. And I call it training because, rather like if you hire a personal trainer, the personal trainer can explain to you what you need to do, but they can't do the jumping jacks for you. So I want people to be in this mindset that this is not about passively learning, it's about actively getting in there and changing your relationship. And the goal of the training really is, if you want to heal your relationship, if you want to save your relationship, if you just want to improve your relationship, maybe you've got a couple of long-term relationships behind you and you're like, oh, I just want the next one to be better. But it's essentially aimed towards couples. Now, I do say people can do this even if they're the only one trying. So Harriet, this may be for you. You can turn your relationship around. And in fact, if you have the mindset that you can turn your relationship around, then that is indeed exactly what you will do. But the relationship, so it's basically an online training course that takes place over the space of 8 weeks. If you purchase the course, you get lifetime access to that, because obviously we're in this for life, guys. And it's something that you can refer back to over over all the challenges that just invariably crop up over time. So during, an 8-week span of learning how to change your relationship, not everything's going to crop up in that time, which is why we like to give you the access forever. So you can consistently grow and level up, essentially. And I'm doing a bit of an offer at the moment. So for anyone who signs up to the mailing list, which you can sign up to the mailing list at my website, which is hea-rt.com. So happily ever after relationship training. You can get a big discount on the course at the moment. We're going to start the next course.
Tell us the website again.
hea-rt.com. Happily ever after relationship training. And yeah, obviously I called the page Happily Ever After because I wholeheartedly believe that it's not just about, if you're in crisis, it's not just about getting your relationship out of that stage. It's about actually creating something that's better and something that is going to make you happy long term. Because this is why we get into it. We're all about wanting to have that happily ever after, and I believe this is 100% possible.
Is that the right spelling?
No, HEA dash.
HEA dash is in
hyphen,
yeah.
RT.
Yeah.
.com. So happily ever after dash relationshiptraining.com, essentially.
And the discount level is
40%. So it's a biggie.
There it is. Is that right?
Yes, that is the one. So yeah, head over, sign up to the mailing list, and you will be entitled to the discount.
Come on, guys. Just sign up. Where else would you get this? I've guys, you've heard. I mean, some of you may have heard Holly over. It's coming up to a year.
It was July when we first.
Okay.
First had a chat. Yeah.
8 months or 9 months. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she knows what she's talking about. And hey, I guess if you tell her on the website that you were on this live,
yes,
then that's where you get your 40% discount. Now's the time to do it. There is no point in anybody. One thing I always want to say to people is, if you buy, what is this, a saying we have in our house: if you buy cheap, you buy twice. And what that means is stop trying to cut corners. Sometimes we have to invest in our future and not beat around the bush, or just hopefully pick up things for free all the time. Invest in yourself. It's very easy to enter relationships. It's even easier to get married. It's so easy. But I guess when we prepare, go ahead, Holly.
The average cost of a divorce, if no property is involved, I believe is something like £12,000. So, I feel just from that point of view, investing in your relationship, but not only that, investing in your relationship because it saves you all this horrific emotional heartache that we all put ourselves through. I'm just the same, we all put ourselves in this position where we're suffering and we don't need to. There is a different way. There is a better way. Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you for your time.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Guys, we are back tomorrow with how to develop unity with Pastor G, PG London. Check the poster out on our Instagram page. This is Marriage UK. Go to Holly's page, HEA. Well, it's there on the screen. I'm not going to try and my phone is in the way. Go to This is Marriage UK to find out what's next. We are on tomorrow night at the same time. Actually, I think it's 8 p.m. actually. We will be on talking about how to develop unity. We're going to go deep as we do all the time. Please share this video.
Yes.
And please subscribe to the channel. Let people know what time it is. Let people know what they can access. This is a time of, this is an interesting time in COVID. We're about to discover how fatal this lockdown has been on the population. That is why we do this show. So please share it. Share it to your heart's content so that people can just get life
Yeah.
And again, once again, I just want to thank you, Holly. Guys, we'll see you tomorrow. God bless. Take care. And I'm just going to click the end broadcast button right now.
See you later.